Bava Kamma daf Kufavav. We begin several lines from the top of the daf. The Gemara is discussing halacha said by Rav Huna in the name of Rav. So Rav Huna says in the name of Rav that if Reuven claims to Shimon, you owe me money, you have a money that belongs to me. Shimon says, I don't owe you anything, and then he swears. And then witnesses come and say that Shimon really owes the money. But by this time, Reuven has already accepted Shimon's shua. So says Rav Huna halacha, Shimon no longer has to pay anything. As the pasuk says, "V'lakach ba'alav v'lo yishalim." If the bailim v'lakach, we say a drasha, if the lakach ba'alav, if the owners accepted the shua, well, yishalim doesn't have to pay anymore, even though witnesses came and already were mechayev him. Now, that's the halacha of Rav Huna. Says Rava. Logic would have said that that should only apply to a monetary loan, because the halacha is milvul eitzon. When you borrow money, it becomes yours. You spend it. You borrow it to spend, not to keep, and not to return the same money. All you have is an obligation to pay. You don't have the other person's money, and therefore the obligation to pay can be hinged upon that person not accepting Yeshua. But if he accepts your shvua, then it says lo yishalim. You don't have to pay. However, different than that is if you're holding an object. If you have a pikadon, where you're holding something which belongs to the other individual. So if Shimon's holding a pekan that belongs to Reuven, it really belongs to Reuven. So how does it make sense that he gets to keep it? Even if he swears, and Reuven's mekabel his shua, it still belongs to Reuven, it's in Shimon's hands, he has to give it back to him. That shouldn't change, and he should still be chayav to give it to him. Says Rav, that's what logic should have dictated. However, he uses an expression of shua. He says like him. Rav said is halacha. That's Rav Huna quoting. Rav said is halacha even in a situation of pikadon, because the Torah still does say this drasha in the context of a pikadon. It's talking about shemer sachar, and that's where it says you don't need it to pay. Okay. So that is the halacha of Rav Huna. Now says the Gemara, Rav Nachman was sitting and saying this sugya over, and Rav Yehuda asked Rav Nachman, and a mission that says, if Reuven asks Shimon, where's my pikadon, where's the object that I left in your care? He said it was lost. Reuven says, I make you swear that you lost it, because it's a type of shemer that would be pater for g'nei aveda. So he says, Amen. Which is a way of making a shvua. Now, then come witnesses and they testify that he aided himself. So the law is that he has to pay for that which he stole. He doesn't have to pay kefil because he did not claim it was stolen from him. He claimed it was lost from him. And you only have to pay kefil if he swears that it got stolen from him. Okay, so he does not have to pay kefil. However, he does have to pay the keren. He doesn't have to pay chaimish, because chaimish is only if he admits on his own. Now, the brisa continues. If he admitted on his own, then he would pay nominally the keren, he would also pay an extra chaimish, and he would bring a korban asha. So the kasha that's being asked here is, here you have a case of a pikadon, the person swore, witnesses came, and still he needs to pay. So it's not true, this halacha that we're saying of Rav Huna, that when the owner accepts the shvua, when Reuven accepts the shvua, Shimon doesn't need to pay anymore if witnesses come afterwards. So my answers we're talking about with this was not a real shvua. He didn't swear in Beis Din, he swore outside of Beis Din. Swearing outside of the Beis Din is not enough to change ownership, not enough to make him not need to pay afterwards. So Gemara says, so then let's look at the Seifa. Seifa is the exact same case, except that he claimed that it got stolen. So Reuven says to Shimon, where's my pikadon that I gave you? Shimon says, it got stolen from me. Reuven says, it make you swear. Shimon says, Amen. Witnesses come and say that he actually stole it himself. Then he has to pay kefil. If he admitted on his own without witnesses, he has to pay the keren, he has to pay chaimish, and he has to bring a korban asha. Now, if the shvua here was outside of the Beis Din, so then why does he have to pay kefil? Kefil can only be mechayev by a real shvua. So he answered, he said, listen, I could give you a derech answer. I could say that the Reisha is talking about outside the Beis Din and the Seif is talking about inside the Beis Din. However, I'd rather give you a different answer, very similar structure answer. Instead of saying it's in Beis Din and out of Beis Din, I'll say where was he jumped, there was all in Beis Din. But in the first case, he jumped and he made him swear before the Dayanim were mechayev him. In the second case, he waited until the Dayanim were mechayev him. So the first case is, again, not a real shua, al pidin, and the second case is a real shua. There's not much of a difference between the two answers, but this is less of a daichik to say that they were different circumstances than it is to say they were different places. And that's why the Gemara prefers this teretz. Now, said Rami Bar Chama to Rav Nachman, why are you defending Rav? You didn't even hold of Rav. So what? Mashkuni nafshach, why are you dragging yourself after Rav to explain pshat in him? So he said, to explain pshat in Rav is how Rav would explain the Mishnah. That's why I want to explain how Rav fits in the Mishnah. Samar asked, how could Rav Nachman disagree with Rav? Rav brought a pasuk, a drasha from a pasuk. It says, "V'lakach ba'alav lo yishalim." So the answer is the pasuk means something else according to Rav Nachman. The pasuk means that the shvua which the Torah prescribes is a shvua to not pay. You can't swear and collect under most circumstances. You could swear and not need to pay. And that's why it says, V'lakach ba'alav v'lo yishalim. If you take the shvua, then you will not need to pay. The one who needs to pay, he's the one who swears and gets out of it. You can't have it go the other way. The Gemara now has another question on Rav Huna's halacha. The Gemara says Rav Hamnuna asked, a Brisa that says that if they made him swear 5 times, whether it's in Beis Din or it's not in the Beis Din, and he denied that he owes the money 5 times, for each of those 5 times he has to pay again the chaimish and has to bring a korban asham. Says Rav Shimon, what's the reason? Because each time he's denying money, because he could have admitted each time, he had an opportunity to admit, and he didn't admit, so each time is a whole other swearing falsely. Now, says Gemara, you can't use any of the answers you said before. You can't say that he was kafatz, that he jumped and he swore before they made him swear, because it says hishbiya olive, they made him swear. And you can't say it's only talking outside the basin, because it said explicitly inside the basin or outside the basin. So the Gemara, what are you going to do? Here you still see that the Bryce explicitly said that he's denying the money 5 times. That means even though he swore the first time, he still owes money and he's denying it. If you would say like Rav Marav, that once he swore falsely, there's no denial of the money anymore because he doesn't owe it anymore. So then the next 4 times that he swears, he's not really denying anything. So the Gemara answers, it's talking about 2 separated cases, either that he jumped and swore before, or that it was outside the Beis Din. When we said that they made him swear, that's talking about outside the Beis Din. And we said that it was inside the Beis Din, that's talking about where he jumped and swore before. So either way, you have one reason why it's not a really valid shvua. The Gemara now brings a kasha was asked by Rava. Rava quotes a brisa where it says that if Reuven says, "Where's my pikadon?" and Shimon says it was stolen from me, and then he swears, and then he admits, and witnesses come. Or he admits, and witnesses come that it was false. So what's the halacha? How much he needs to pay depends on what happened first. Did he admit first, or did witnesses come first? So if he admitted first, then he has to pay Karen and Chaimish and Asham like anyone who admits. If the witnesses came first, then he has to pay Kefel, and he has to bring a korban asham. So here again, you see that although he swears, he still has to pay. So it's kasha on Rav Huna Amar Rav. So this is the answer you said before of outside the Beis Din or before the Beis Din was mechayiv him to swear, and neither of them are going to work because it says clearly he has to pay kefel in the appropriate case, and that can never happen in those 2 circumstances. So therefore, the Gemara has to give a whole new answer, and the Gemara narrows down where Rav Huna Amar Rav said his halacha in the first place. So Rav says anytime he was moideh, irrespective of whether he had claimed that he lost it or that it got stolen, if he was made on his own, Rav Huna did not say his halacha that he's pater based on that shvua, even if it's found to be false. And the reason is because the Torah says v'hisvada, if he's moida, he needs to pay the karen and the chaimish. Now, if he claimed that it was stolen, here you could have a case. If witnesses came, he did not. Again, Rav did not say his halacha. Because it says tashlume kefel, he has to pay the kefel. Weird Rav said if he claimed that it was lost and he swore and he did not admit and witnesses came, that's a situation where you need to pay. And that answers both this kasha and the kasha before. Now, the Gemara says that Rav Gamda went over and said this chiddush that Rav only said his halacha by edim and not by moideh. He said this over to Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi took an exception to it. He said, we had before that Rav Hamnuna asked the kasha on Rav from a case of moida. Now Rav Hamnuna was a Talmud of Rav, and he obviously thought that Rav said his halacha in the case of moida. That's why he asked the kasha in the case of moida. So how could you come and tell me, no, you're not a Talmud of Rav? You're going to come and say that Rav only said his halacha by edim, not by moida. So the Gemara says, Rav Acha Saba said to Rav Ashi, Rav Hamnuna's kasha was like this. It's in the case of the person who swore 5 times on the same thing, and he's mechayiv for each of them. So we had said that the reason was because he wasn't moideh on each one, and that's another false shua for each of them. It says the Gemara, no, it's because that is what proves that had Eidim come, he would have been chayiv. Why? Because if you say after he swears falsely on the first time, now if witnesses come, he would be mechayiv. So now I could say that the fact that he swore again means that again he's being chayiv for money, that had Eidim come, he would have been chayiv. And therefore, I could say that he's swearing falsely again, he should be chayiv for this shvua again. But if Eidim couldn't be mechayiv him, how could we be mechayiv him? There's no money that he owes here. Eidim can be mechayiv him, and he's not admitting. So what exactly is he doing that you're being mechayiv him? So really the proof is surrounding the case of Eidim, not the case of Maida. Umar now changes topics slightly to talk about comparing a real thief to somebody who was holding onto a b'kadin and claims it got stolen from him and he's really holding it, which in essence means that he's a thief. So Chibar Abba says in Rav Yechon in the following halacha, both of those cases you have to pay kefel, as the Torah says, and therefore we can learn from there that in the case where he's Tayin is gone, if he's claiming he was watching a b'kadin and he's claiming it got stolen from him, that if he does tvicha mechira, he slaughters it or sells it, he also has to pay 4 or 5 times the value, what we call tashlume dalet vehei. And the reason is because he's just like a real thief. You see from paying kefel that Tayin is ganef is the same as a real ganef, and therefore in the halachos of tashlume dalet vehei, Tayin is ganef is also the same as a real ganef. And just like a real ganef who does tvicha mechira has to pay dalet vehei, a Tayin is ganef who does tvicha mechira also has to pay dalet vehei. Smara says there's the pircha. A real ganef pays kefil without having to have sworn that he didn't steal it. A Tayin is ganef only pays kefil if he swore that he didn't steal it, as the Torah says. So you could therefore ask a pircha that who says you could learn the halacha of the dalet vehei from one to the other, from a real ganef to a Tayin ganef. Smara says you can't make a pircha on this. This is not a mamasina, this is a hekesh. The Torah puts the 2 psukim next to each other. You can't ask kashas on a hekesh. Says the Gemara, that makes sense if the 2 psukim that you're referring to, one is referring to a Tayin ganef, and one is referring to a real ganef. But there was a machlokes in Perek Meruba. The pasuk says im yimatzei haganef, im lo yimatzei haganef. So one opinion says yimatzei ganef is talking about a real thief. Im lo yimatzei ganef is talking about there's no real thief. He himself is the thief. So then it makes sense, and you have a hekesh between the two. However, according to the other opinion, that's not how you learn it. Instead, you say the two are both referring to a Tayin as ganef, and the parsha of a ganef atzma is a different pasuk elsewhere. Im himatzei timatzei. So what? Then there's no hekesh between the two. So I can't ask a pircha. So Gemara says no. There is another place where they are hookish to each other, and that's because it says ganef ha-ganef. The extra hay is to be makish between the two. Now, on this halacha, the Gemara says Rav Chibar Abba asked a kasha to Rav Yechanan from the brayso we brought before. Reuven says to Shimon, "Where's my ox that I gave you?" He said, "It got stolen from me." Reuven says, "I make you swear." He said, "Amen." Witnesses come in and testify that he ate it. He ate it. The halacha says he pays kefel. It does not say that he pays dalet vehei. Now, if he ate it, obviously he shechted it. And if he did shchita, how come he's not paying the dalet vehei? So you see, it's a kasha on what you said. You see that if somebody's tayin as a ganef, it doesn't mean that he's the same as a ganef and he doesn't pay the dalet vehei. So my answer is no, he didn't do shchita, he ate it as an avela. So my says there's a number of other ways you could have answered. You could have said he ate it as a treifa. It was an opinion that shchitas treifa doesn't count, and therefore it's not going to be mechayiv him the dalet vehei. Someone says no, Rav Yechon holds like Rabbi Meir, who says that shchita streifa or any shchita that doesn't matter la'achila does count to be mechayiv the dalet vehei. Says Mary could have answered that it was a ben pakua. It was an animal that was born from a mother cow that got shechted, and it was inside. That doesn't require shchita, and therefore there's no shchita to be mechayiv the dalet vehei, and he could still eat it. Where answers Rav Yechon holds like Rabbi Meir, who says that even a ben pakua requires shchita. So says, let's give a different answer. Let's say that the thief was Amid Bedin, and he was Mechayiv by the Din to return it, and the Beis Din said to him, say tainly, said, go give it back to him. And Rava said, in a case like that, until he's actually given it back, once he's told, give it back, he's now a Gazlan, because he's holding it explicitly without permission, and a Gazlan doesn't pay dalet vehei. So if he goes at that point, afterwards, already told, say tainly, he goes and he shechts it, that's not Mechayiv. So that's the case where he ate it, he shechted it and ate it at that point. And that's why there's no dalet vehei. So the Gemara says, the Gemara just quotes Rav in full, and Rav says that had he said, instead of saying tzeitain loy, he had said chayiv atalitin, that you're obligated to give it to him, then he's not being told it's actually his, and he's still a ganef, and then if he shachted, he is chayiv the dal v'hei. So the Gemara says, okay, that's a good time. We could have said that, but there are many things we could have said. We could have also said that he has a partnership in it. When he is a partner in it and he stole it from his partner, there's no dal v'hei. So we could have answered 3 other answers, but we chose one of the many. Gemara now says another halacha that Rav was the name of Rav Yechanan, somebody who is a shemer aveda. He found an object, and then before he can return it, he says or he claims that it got stolen from him. And then it turns out that he was the thief himself, so the halacha is he has to be careful for that, just like as if he was a shemer pikodem. What's the reason? Because in the Torah describing the halacha says kol aveda asher yemer ki yuzeh, on any aveda ad halakim yaved var shneim. So you see this halacha by an aveda. Now asks Rav Mamel to Rav Chibur Abba that we have a drasha that the parsha of a pikodain, that you're kaifer and you're a tayin as garnet, only refers to if you got it as a gadol, not as a katan. And that means that a katan didn't give it to you, a gadol gave it to you. Now we see that because it says ki yitain ish. Ish is a gadol, not a katan. That means it has to be given by a gadol, not a katan. Now that at least shows me that it has to be, it couldn't be that it was given by katan and claimed by katan. What if it was given by katan and claimed when he was a gadol? What would be there? So there it says adalikim yavid dvar shnehem. It has to be the giving and the claim is in the same situation, both a gadol. Now, if you're right that a shemer aveda has the same halacha, so shemer aveda there is no nesina. So what's the difference that was given by a katan? You don't need any nesina at all. Let it be not any worse than if you just found it. And therefore you should have the same halacha even if it was given by a katan, because midin shemer aveda. So my answers were referring to here that he ate it when he was actually a katan. That means shemer aveda ate it while the bailim were still ketanim, and therefore there's never any claim. They're never in a position to claim it from him, and therefore you can never have a situation of being mechayev kefil. However, shemer aveda, the bailim are gedalim, and therefore they had a position of claim even at the time that he ate it. Asks the Gemara, what would be the halacha if he ate it when the person was a gadol? You say he would have to pay. So then why, when the Bryce is looking for a situation where it's okay, it says you have to have the nesina and the teviyah at the same. It has to be both a gadol at the same. It shouldn't speak about nesina and teviyah. It should talk about achila and teviyah, because you're saying that the achila has to be when he's a gadol. So where it says, okay, so change it, it should be achila and teviyah. Rav Ashi gives a different answer to the whole kasha. He says an aveda comes from a ben das. Even though there's no nesina, there's still the ben das who had it behind it. Here you're talking about where there's no ben das, it comes from a katan. It's not comparable, it's not the same then.